All right. And Morgan, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to jump off of my camera so it doesn't distract anyone, but welcome and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for everybody for joining. So the flow of today, I'm just going to do a quick introduction and then I'm going to read a little bit from my book and then answer any questions. And then we'll have some fun trivia, music trivia at the end. But yeah, so I am Morgan Vega. I use she, her pronouns. I have always loved books and I've pretty much always considered myself a writer, but Sleeping Around, I'll show you the book. This is my debut book. Sleeping Around, it's a young adult contemporary. So it's my first book and I'm really excited about it. And so I have been in the bookish community for a while now. I'm a booktuber, so I have a YouTube channel where I talk all about my favorite books. I'm a bookstagrammer too. So I'm online talking about books, but it's exciting to be on the other end of it where I have written a book and get to talk to other book lovers about it. So I'm really excited to be here. I also work full-time in publishing. I work for No Starch Press. They're a tech book publisher. I'm actually on the marketing side of that team. So it's really cool that, you know, I love books. I wrote a book and my full-time job is in publishing. So I'm just living my best life. So it is great. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and just a little bit more about my book, Sleeping Around. So like I said, it's a young adult contemporary. Our main character is Corey Reed, and it follows her transition from foster care to college. But things don't go quite as planned when she shows up at college. She's really hoping, you know, college, she'll find more permanency than she's found in foster care with house hopping. So she's excited to live in a dorm, Harmony Hall. It's for music majors because she is going to major in music. She's a violinist. So she's really excited to start college, but she gets there and things don't pan out. She ends up not being able to live in Harmony Hall, hence sleeping around because yeah, things kind of take a turn and she ends up literally sleeping around campus. So that's a little bit about the book. And I thought I would read a quick chapter from the book. It's only 4 pages, but this will kind of speak more to that inciting incident there. So kind of when she's on campus and everything first starts to go wrong. So this is actually chapter 4, or as I have my chapter set up, movement 4. And this is the paperback. You'll see like there's a treble clef and movement 4, and there's a definition, and that's how I've structured all the chapters. So the definition for movement 4 is violin, familiar 4-stringed bow instrument, the leading instrument of the orchestra, the highest pitch member of the violin family, and also called a fiddle, but sure as hell not by me. Okay. Before walking up the steps to Harmony Hall, I adjust my purple tip ponytail at the nape of my neck to show off my treble clef tattoo. Catherine helped me dye my hair with Kool-Aid about a month ago. When I asked her if she would help me, I expected her to laugh and take off on a run, but she grabbed her car keys. Catherine didn't approve of my tattoo though. Tom drove me to the tattoo parlor instead. He said he got a tattoo after his 18th birthday too, the quote from Pride and Prejudice on the inside of his arm. I declare, after all, there is no enjoyment like reading. Though I had just enough cash left from what I didn't spend on Violin's case, Tom paid for it. On the way to the store, Catherine said, "My mom dyed my hair once. I wanted blonde highlights and she turned my hair orange. Looked awful, but I learned from her mistakes." She glanced over at me with a grin before turning back to the road. "Now we can make some new ones." I covered my face with my hands. "Please don't mess up my hair for college." She shrugged. "It'll grow back." "But we're not even cutting it." She laughed the rest of the drive. I didn't trust she was joking until she mixed the sugary dark purple paste and showed me how to rub it on the ends of my hair. The dye stained my light and her sun-kissed hands magenta for a week. And for that week, we had something in common. In Harmony Hall, I live with people I have lots in common with. Kool-Aid not necessary. The dorm is like a stage during dress rehearsal, filled with building energy and nervous chatter. I step into a long line of music majors, from freshmen to super seniors, though most upperclassmen opt to live off campus or in the on-campus apartments. They hold instruments from teeny piccolos to monster tubas. The front door opens behind me and the summer heat warms my back. Hey, is this a line to get our room keys? Another violin case with 2 stickers, an equality sticker and a sticker for the Mason Musical Repair Shop, catches my attention. You can tell a lot about a person from their instrument case. This must be a reasonable human who has worked at some music shop, maybe to pay for advanced lessons. I guess. What does my WTF sticker say about me? My dad owns this shop, says the guy holding the case after catching me zoned out on his sticker. Something about his shaggy dark hair seems familiar, though not the ring in his slender bottom lip. Good thing he's not an oboe player. Let me guess, I say, you work there too. Since I was 9. He nods me forward to an opening where a girl wearing a Bourne's college polo hands out dorm keys. See you in class, Coralie. I freeze mid-step, my Converse-clad foot hovering in midair. I didn't say my name right. How do we know each other? I turn with a raised eyebrow, the blaring question across my face. Dylan, remember? His thin lips spread into a sly, lopsided smile at my continued confusion. Dylan Mason, the most talented violinist you've ever met? With a rush of returned frustration, I do remember. I remember I can't stand his high-flying, overachieving guts. How did I not recognize that smirk? Then again, he seems at least 3 inches taller, and his lip ring and biceps, not that I'm looking or anything, are new. Dylan sat first chair in both all-county and district orchestra my freshman and sophomore years of high school. I sat beside him in second, though I did make first chair our sophomore year for district orchestra. We shared a stand, sheet music, and whispered insults during rehearsals and performances. He even got my number sophomore year, though I don't remember how, and would send me taunting texts. Thankfully, we never went to the same school. Until now. Most talented, I scowl, as his smirk stretches into a full-out grin. You forget I was first chair the last time we saw each other. He has the audacity to laugh. Violin. Forget him. He won't be laughing soon enough. With an exaggerated swing of my duffel bag, I approach the table and leave Dylan behind, just as I plan to do when auditions come around for our chair placements in string orchestra. Student handbooks, stapled paper packets, and campus maps sit on the table next to an upright metal cabinet full of keys. The girl in the polo crosses her arms as I set down my duffel in front of the table, as if she's annoyed that I slowed down the line for my run-in with Dylan. I'm Tiffany, she, her pronouns, and I'm your resident advisor. She smooths a stray hair that has come loose from a tight ballerina bun. She stares at a list of names in her hand. I wait for her to say something else, but she sighs with evident annoyance. All right, I say, I'm Coralie Reed, same pronouns. The impromptu, but I go by Corey, rolls out of my mouth. I do not go by Corey. My last attempt, when I asked Maddie, my best friend of 3 weeks at the time, whose name is short for Madeline, to call me Corey, her eyes watered when she said, we shouldn't both use shortened names, which I translated to, I want to be the only one in my social circle to use a nickname. She did add that my name is too pretty to shorten. That lessened the blow, except a so-called pretty name doesn't tell my story. Tiffany flashes what can only be a sarcastic smile, then hands me a packet from the table. While she scans her list for my name, I scan the pages titled Bourne's College Welcome Week Schedule for First-Year Students. Administration at Bourne seems to use the word week rather loosely, since classes start on Wednesday. Though for 4 days, they're packing in a lot of activities, from an honor code presentation to a dance party. Tiffany purses her downturned lips. I don't see her name. Heat burns my face as if I'm back outside the dorm in the blazing sun. Did the air conditioner stop working? What's your full name again? I spell it out. Well, you're not on my list. Are you sure you're in the right hole? This can't be happening. The fingerings for some composition I can't process which press into my palm in time with my racing heartbeat. I'm sure, Harmony Hall. Tiffany offers a sad attempt at compassion with a tight-lipped smile. Give me a sec. She taps her phone with long manicured nails I could never have because of playing the violin and presses it to her ear. After a few seconds, she introduces herself to someone named Miss Burr. I'm here with Tiffany glares until I repeat my name for a third time. She says she has a room here, but I'm not seeing her on my roster. Can she come by your office? Tiffany hangs up a minute later and motions Dylan forward. That was Miss Burr, the director of Residence Life. She's in a meeting now, but can help you if you stop by in an hour. Blood rushes to my hands and feet with the urge to run, run, run. Instead, I force myself to stroll past Dylan and the rest of the check-in line. His eyes must follow me though, because the skin on the back of my neck tingles like it did when I got my treble clef tattoo. I don't turn around to flick him off. Instead, I raise my chin and set my eyes on the exit. I don't need his mocking right now. Outside, I walk against the flow of students carrying instruments. They smile, squinting into the sun as I follow my shadow down the sidewalk. Violin. We're going the opposite direction. I know, but we'll be back. I just have to work things out with the Res Life director. Except I don't have a clue why I wasn't on Tiffany's roster. Can I live in Harmony? And if not, where the hell will I live? I'll have to wait for Miss Burr to tell me. Per usual, I'm waiting for somebody to tell me where to live. So that was movement 4. So you got to see, that start of Corey realizing, oh gosh, something's wrong with my room assignment. So later in the book, you kind of figure out what's gone wrong, and Corey has to navigate, a different living situation than she kind of expected. And I don't know for any of you, but for me, I think back to my undergrad college years, especially my freshman year, and a lot of things didn't go as planned. So I feel like we can all kind of relate to Corey in that moment of, you've had all this excitement build up for college or whatever, and it's just not what you expected it to be. And sometimes, and in this case, it can let you down. So that was, a quick reading from the book. I hope you all enjoyed it. So now if anybody wants to put any questions in the chat, I'll be happy to answer them. If it's about the book, if it's about, writing or reading or anything, I'll be happy to answer them. So if you go to the bottom, you'll see a little chat and you can drop in questions there. I'll give everybody a minute if you want to put something in the chat.
While we're waiting, Morgan, what inspired the book?
That's a good question. So it's interesting. So 6 years ago, I started writing it, and it was a little bit after I got out of college, but I had the idea kind of in my brain for a while. But I think my initial inspiration was something that happened to me actually my freshman year of college. So very long story short, one day I was washing my sheets and I come back in my dorm room to put my sheets back on my bed, and my roommate has moved in her best friend and all of my stuff is like pushed to the side. So I ended up living on an air mattress in a friend's room for over a month, and that was my freshman year. Like I didn't know how to advocate for myself. It was a mess, and it was really hard too because my RA knew, my area director, and even the director of Residence Life knew. So I think that initially inspired just the concept, like the fact that there's only so many rooms. Res Life, like this is just like a normal thing, and it's talked about in the book, like Res Life at all universities, college, like they end up having to overbook to factor in people dropping out or transferring, things like that. So they're in a tight position, but that happened to me my freshman year, and so that kind of had stuck with me, like that idea of college being this exciting thing, and you get there and it's like, this is not what I was expecting at all. So that definitely inspired it. But you know, a big part of the book too is music, but also foster care. And I can talk more about those specific things too, but it's just interesting. Like that was my initial concept, but the book definitely took a different turn or had a life of its own kind of thing. So yeah, but that's the initial inspiration. And it looks like I have another question in the chat. Loved that chapter. Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm hooked. Oh, good. Okay. I was wondering what's the indie book process like? That's a great question. And also a complicated one. I learned so much in the process of self-publishing this book. So I, for actually years leading up to me publishing, I had done research. Because it's a lot to know, because there is print on demand companies, and you have your ebook, you have your print book. If you want a hardcover, and I do have a hardcover too, so I'll show you. So this is the paperback version, and this is the hardcover version. So little bit bigger, and in order to get a hardcover, not all print on demand companies have a hardcover option. So that kind of narrowed who I worked with. But yeah, a lot of just the indie book process is, you know, figuring out first, like what you want to do, because for a while I thought I wanted to traditionally publish. I actually went to New York for the Writer's Digest conference, and I did a pitch slam, and I pitched to agents, and I got requests. But after going through all that, like, I'm glad I did it, but it just got to a point where I knew I wanted to put this out in the world. I didn't want to wait, because you have to get an agent, you have to get a publishing company, and that can take years. So I wanted to get it out into the world. I wanted to be able to say I'm an author. So that's why I went with the indie process. So once you know you want to be an indie author, you have to start building an author platform and thinking about getting yourself out there, because as an indie author, but just any author in general, like, you're going to have to put yourself out there in order for people to know about your book, because you're not with a publishing house that people will more likely come across your book, even if they're not putting big budgets into marketing your book. So I started building my author platform. That was part of me having a Bookstagram account, creating my BookTube channel. So just trying to connect with other readers, and not just as an author, but obviously, like, I love to read. I love books. That's my life. Books are my life. So so I thought about the platform too. And then when it really gets down to it, then it's so much. The writing process, the editing process. I had multiple editors. I had beta readers and sensitivity readers. So beta readers are just anybody who can read your book and tell you what's fallen flat, what needs more work, what they really love. And then sensitivity readers are basically readers that you pay them to read your work, to read for specific identities or for certain. So for example, my main character, it has grown up in foster care. I did not grow up in foster care. So I knew I wanted to have a sensitivity reader, to make sure that I'm, doing justice for that population, but then, making sure that I'm not causing harm, because that's really important. That's the opposite of what I wanted to do with this book. Like, my dream would be for somebody, to read it, care more about foster care, and want to foster. So anyway, getting editors, getting beta readers, sensitivity readers, and then it's down to, the logistics, what even is a print on demand company? How do I get my book out there? So I went with Ingram Spark, and they are really wonderful. That's how I did my paperback and my hardcover, because they are about the only ones I know of right now that might have changed since then, but that offers a hardcover option. But they are really great. Like, if you're an indie author, they're great to work with because they make it easier to get your books in libraries and bookstores. And that's really what I wanted. Like, I wanted to be able, to reach out to libraries like this one and be like, hey, like, want to work with you, that kind of thing. And, like, support my local bookstore, support my local libraries that way too. It's just like a local author wanting to help out like local book lovers in your community too. So anywho, that's why I went with Ingram Spark. Definitely recommend them. Can be tricky, so I'm always around if anybody is planning to publish a book and has questions, because it's a lot to know and things can easily go wrong, as they sometimes did for me. But yeah, I think that was a very long way to answer your question, but hopefully that answered some things. And it looks like we have another one from Valerie. Okay. Hi, Morgan. Thank you for sharing. You're so welcome. I read your book and really enjoyed it and your storytelling style. Thank you so much. Can you talk more about the foster care and family themes you touched on? I would love to. So kind of mentioned this before, like, foster care is a huge part of the book. I did not, like I said, I didn't grow up in foster care, but for a long time, I think it was actually in college when, I feel like sometimes people just know they want to have kids, but that happened to me for fostering. Like, I just knew that was something that I really wanted to do. So I'm hoping, someday soon that I can be a foster parent. But yeah, so I've wanted to be, so I had actually started, researching how to be a foster parent, just like articles and things like that, even before I started writing the book, but then also before I knew it was going to have such conversations about foster care. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It's like I'd done all this research, but I knew I needed to do more for writing the book. So it was a lot of information. I learned so much, and there's still so much more to learn. Like, everybody's experience in foster care is different. So I just wanted to have one story and have it be as true to that population as possible. But yeah, I think, foster care family themes. I think, foster care, that is an more extreme situation, but I think everyone can relate to feelings of not feeling like they belong, or feeling like they're not good enough to be loved, or, just not having that sense of inner self-worth and self-confidence. And, I think that was big for me in college. And I think that's why the college setting, everything that Corey's dealing with, I think that's why, I think the theme comes together really well over the course of the novel. Just because I think that's a vulnerable time for people. Like, there's so much change. You're not on your own, but you kind of are, and you're trying to navigate the world for the first time, and there's just like so many questions and there's so much pressure. And I think like why everything kind of like comes together is because the Corey growing up in foster care, she had to deal with that her whole life. And it's like, for me, coming into college and things are new, things are scary, I don't know these people, like that's what Corey, like growing up in foster care, experienced every single time she went to a new home. So anyhow, so that's kind of how it all kind of came together with foster care in college, like that theme developing. And, I think that's the beautiful part. I'll try not to give too many spoilers, like talking about, just family and all that stuff. But yeah, I think like this family themes of, nobody is perfect. We all have these flaws, but like families and even friends, like friends that feel like family members, it's like, these are the people that are choosing to see our flaws, but still love us unconditionally, like hold us accountable, but allow us to grow and encourage us to grow, and not, hold our faults or mistakes against us. So yeah, I like it. I mean, I wrote it, but I think there's like a lot of, beautiful themes. And even though I didn't grow up in foster care, I think a lot of it is personal to me, just with things that I've gone through. Um, you know, just different identities that I hold and things that I've struggled with in terms of belonging and not feeling like I belong. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Valerie. So we have a couple more questions. Okay, so how did you find the time to write a book? I don't know. it was it was so much time. It was I think just writing your first book too. I think the next book I write, which, look out next year too, because I have some more in the works. But I think having this first book, it'll be the hardest book I've ever written because it's the first book. Because you got to figure out your writing process and your editing process, and just even like the craft of writing, and not just on a sentence level, but like, how do you write a story? What makes a good story? And that is actually something, even though I have consumed stories, whether books, movies, whatever, my whole life, it was hard making sure that I had this buildup and this tension, but didn't get too much tension too soon. And basically there's just a flow to it. And that's why editors are necessary. My editor, she actually, she doesn't work with them anymore, but she was at Simon and Schuster as an editor, and working with her, she was just a gift to this book. I actually had her in my acknowledgements at the end. But yeah, so back to finding time to write, like, it is so time consuming. The whole process is so time consuming, but it is, finding time and knowing like what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not willing to sacrifice. Because, making time to write a book, like, you're gonna have to say no to things. Like, I've had to say no to things before in order to have that time. Or sometimes I sacrifice sleep, wake up like an hour or two before work. And, you just find time if it's something that you really want to do. But I think it's easier to find the time if you get at the heart of why you're writing the story, like, not even on a plot level, but that, like, why is a story important to me, and why do I want it to be important to other people? So for me, like, this story, I kept finding time, I kept coming back to it because it held this theme about unconditional love, and like, for yourself and for others. So that's how I found the time. I don't really know how I did it. It just feels like a whirlwind. Yes. So another question. Thanks for sharing with us today, Morgan. You are so welcome. I read your book as well. It touches on so many important themes that are so important for the YA genre. It's a great read for young adults and older. I loved it and found myself connecting to it as I reflected back to my college experience. Oh, that is beautiful. I am so glad. Yeah, I think, for young adults in particular, like, there's not many young adult books at college. Like, I can think of some, but I don't think that's quite, there's just not many set at college. And I think that's so important, because I know for me, that would have been so helpful entering college, because I didn't know what to expect at all. Speaking of like a res life director, that's like early on. I had no idea what a res life director was before I entered college. So it's like, how can you get the help if you don't even know where the help is? What is their even title? So anywho, I'm hoping Sleeping Around like gives some more insight. Yeah. Thanks for sharing all your tips and tricks. You're so welcome. There's so much involved in publishing your own book. I had no idea. Yeah, me neither. You're very passionate, and I've really enjoyed hearing your experience. What started your love of books and writing? Wow. I actually remember in first grade, I didn't go to the playground with all the other kids because I wanted to sit inside and color and write my books. Like I would write stories and illustrate them. And thankfully my teacher was okay with that. But yeah, so at an early age, I knew like I've always just loved stories, and I wanted to be someone that wrote my own stories, however that looked. And it's interesting because it actually started out for me as songwriting. You know, music is so important to the book too, but I actually got into writing through songwriting. And because it's interesting though, because like songs, sometimes they still tell a story, but I think for me, it's more like when I think about it in writing books, it's like the internal narration or the emotions, like how do you portray emotions? So hopefully songwriting has made me a better author, hopefully. So yeah, so I think I've always been, you know, a writer, a reader. I first considered myself a reader. My mom, we went to the beach and she bought me my first Nancy Drew book, and I fell in love with reading, and I just wanted to keep on reading. So yeah, so I think that was really early on. I think I was definitely in elementary school. So I've considered myself a writer and reader for a long time. And it's just been, I think for me, it's a lot of people talk about like reading, writing, like as a way to escape. I think a lot of it for me is like processing the world. You know, writing, a lot of it is just like processing your experiences. And even if it doesn't even look on a page like your experience, like you do put yourself into the story. So yeah, it's that processing and sometimes even healing. Like, so yeah, I love writing and reading clearly. Cool. So I think I got through all the questions in the chat. I'll give you all a moment if you want to put any last things, but I'm excited because we're gonna play music trivia.
Yeah, I know. While we see if anyone has any last minute questions, I did have one more question about the music aspect. So I remember reading in your book that I believe your mom is a music teacher. And so that's kind of where that started. But just kind of, if you can talk about where your love of music and how you incorporate it into the book a little bit.
Oh, yes, I would love to. Yeah, from an early age, like music was just a part of my life. And I mean, I even remember in the car with my mom and my sisters, like driving home after school and being like, let's write a song in the car, you know? So, I mean, a lot of my love and continued love for music, like I definitely attribute that all to my mom. Like she got me into music. She would drive me because I started out on the violin as well. I play other instruments now, but she got me started on the violin. Both my parents did, but I just remember mom driving me to all my many, many music lessons, dealing with me when I am throwing tantrums because I can't play things right. So yeah, she was just like a huge part of, you know, music in my life, and really encouraged it as well, like encouraged that joy for music. And yeah, I too, like, because music is so prominent in this book, like Corey being in foster care, like I really wanted Corey to have this dream, this passion that like showed the reader like you don't, like Corey is so much more. Like she is a rounded human. Like she has dreams and passions. Yes, she has setbacks and hard times, but she's like a beautiful character that is trying to grow and like figure herself out and go for her dreams. And sometimes she does the right thing, sometimes she does the wrong thing. So yeah, I wanted her to have this passion. And you know, playing the violin, like growing up, like it's a hard instrument to play, but I love the violin so much. And you know, I don't really play the violin much anymore, slash really not at all. But I love watching violinists, and you know, through the book there's like a lot of music references. It's not to the point where you can't understand what's happening, but I definitely recommend when you read it, like just, you know, mark different musicians to look up, because there's like a lot of contemporary violinists in there too that even have like Instagram accounts that I absolutely adore. So yeah, there's a whole lot of music references. And like I said, like even in the beginning of chapters, there's definitions. And a cool thing about those definitions, I cited where I got the definitions at the end of the book. So I cited a website and also a physical book. And that physical book my mom gave to me, and it was actually my great grandma. So that's kind of cool thing about those definitions of, I don't know, like speaking of family themes and things like that, it's just kind of cool that I got a lot of those definitions from a book that my great grandma owned. So that's pretty cool. Oh, we got a couple more questions, it looks like. So I'll answer them and then we can play some trivia. So what is difficult? Was it difficult to find someone to design your book cover? And who did you use? That is a good question. It was difficult because I designed my book cover. And you know, I love my book cover. It was my first time actually doing digital art. So I was an art minor in college, but I mean, I had never done digital art, and it was a journey. Like this book cover, it looks pretty simple, you know, like it doesn't look like there's too much going on. This thing took me like a year and help from my older sister, because my older sister did major in art and did digital media art. And thank goodness for her, because I was like, why does this look wrong? Why can't I get this right? So I had a lot of help from her. But yeah, it was definitely a process, and I definitely recommend, you know, getting an expert. I've learned my lesson. You know, I'm still proud of it, but I think I could have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of headaches, and probably my older sister a lot of time too. So yeah. Okay, and then last question. I really love the layers of creativity that you included with your novel. Thank you. I found myself not only appreciating your clever writing style, but I was also drawn to each movement, the musical definitions, and artwork. So glad. How did you come up with the design and idea of the movements? It's so interesting. That's a good question. And, you know, there's so many things that, like, if you saw the first draft of this novel, it will look nothing like it does now, which is a very, very good thing. But, you know, like those elements, they didn't come right away. And it was a lot of time and just more thought and intentionality as, you know, I continued my editing process, because a lot of those elements came in the editing process. Just like thinking of how can I make this book, I don't know if artistic is the right word, but like just adding those elements really like elevates the story, and I think helps, you know, the readers just connect more with Corey as a person, because, you know, Corey as a person, I love music, but I don't love music like Corey. Like Corey is in the weeds of music. And so I think just like showing those little elements just help you see more through Corey's eyes of how just music, even if it's not always blatant, like how music, you know, changes the lens she sees through the world. Like that impacts how she processes and moves through the world. Yeah, so that was a good question. So I think that's all of them. Just gonna make sure I didn't miss anything, but yeah, that seems good. If we want to play trivia, I am ready.
Yes, I think so as well. So I'm going to share my screen so we can pull up the trivia. Let me get it open, one moment. Here we go. All right, so we've got music trivia. I'm not sure how many people studied for this music trivia. I made it and will most likely still get things wrong. So, but I'm not going to participate because I did make it. So what we'll go ahead and do is how we'll kind of organize this is I'll go ahead and click start and we'll have the question up there and then everyone can kind of shoot their answer off into the chat and we will pick whichever one is the most common of the answers. Alrighty. So what does the K in K-pop music stand for? And so we've got these options in the bottom here. So go ahead and shoot them into chat and we'll give everyone like about a minute or so to kind of think about it. No Googling. All right. All right, any other last minute ones, or should we just go with Korean?
Let's do it.
All right, and it is Korean, K-pop music.
Yay!
All right, so we did make these questions geared towards like teens and young adults because that's what the book is geared towards. So what is Justin Bieber's middle name, which is something I had no clue until I made this. So we got Michael, Drew, John, and Evan, or David. Oops. Yeah, the questions mark is definitely my All right, we'll give everyone a minute or two more. All right, so I think Michael popped up a little bit more, so we'll go ahead and click Michael. But it is Drew, apparently. I actually forgot that one. All right. Rihanna was born in what country? So here are the options. We have the Bahamas, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana. Okay, we got some Trinidad and Barbados being guessed. Any other guesses? All right, I'm going to go ahead and go with Barbados since that's had the most, and it is apparently Barbados. All right. True or false? Indie music is made by people independently from major record labels. True, 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 true. All right, I think everyone says true. All right. So in 2017, he became the first rapper to be honored in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. In 2021, he was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, becoming the first living solo rapper to be inducted. Who is he? Got some guesses on Jay-Z and guesses on Jermaine. All right, so Jay-Z wins out for which one we're gonna guess. So let's go there. And yep, it was Jay-Z. All right. Billboard says Taylor Swift's next album will be released in what month? November, January, December, or March? And obviously January and March are 2022. All right, so we got November and December. We need a tiebreaker. We need at least one more guess between those two or some other one. All right, so we've got what, two November, 1 December. So we'll go ahead and go with November. And yep, it's coming up this next month, apparently. The band Arcade Fire made a song for the Hunger Games, the soundtrack called Abrams What? All right, so we got son, daughter, daughter. All right, any other guesses coming through? Ooh, another daughter. All right, and it is daughter, Abram's daughter. The following musical instruments use double reeds: English horn, bassoon, and what? Clarinet, saxophone, oboe. Am I pronouncing that right?
Oboe, you're so close.
I was like, OB. I'm like, that does not sound right. Okay.
That made me think of Star Wars, actually. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
That's really where my brain went.
Yeah.
All right, so oboe. Oboe it is. All right. At the International Dance Music Awards in the category of streaming services, which company won in 2018, 2019, and 2020? Spotify, Spotify, Spotify. I think everyone is thinking Spotify. I forgot SiriusXM actually existed until I was doing this.
Yes, I haven't listened to SiriusXM in so long.
All right, how many keys does a standard piano have? 41, 88, 61, and 52. And just to throw everyone off, all of these numbers, according to my search, are correct on piano, different sizes of pianos. Got some guesses on 88. Give it one more second or two to see if anyone else wants to guess or if we're going to go with 88. All right, and it is 88. I would have guessed 52, but then I remember that it's, my brain goes there because that's how many weeks in a year there
Oh, gotcha.
are. What composer wrote the 1812 overture? I will admit that I'm not even going to try to pronounce most of these names. So.
I can do it if you want. I know these.
Yeah, go right
Maybe the last one. Okay,
I
we've got.
That's about it.
Yeah, we've got Beethoven. I think that should be Chopin and Tchaikovsky and Brahms.
Okay.
This is Allison. It's Chopin and Brahms.
Thank you, Allison. I clearly did not do a good job.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even remotely try. I would have gotten nothing else right. All right. Any other guesses? I'm only seeing one. All righty. Okay. Is Tchaikovsky? Is that how you pronounce it?
Now I'm nervous. Just,
I know.
yeah.
All right. So, who composed the Beatles song "Yesterday"? Beatles, yes. We had one guess for John. Any other guesses? All right. So it was actually Paul McCartney. How many people are in the band BTS, which is a K-pop band, by the way? 5, 7, 9, and 4. All right, we got one guess for 7. Another guess for 7, 7. All right. So it is 7. All right. Her first studio album was titled "When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go" in 2019. Her first #1 hit is on the Billboard Hot 100, or on the Billboard Hot 100, was "Bad Guy." Who is she? Billy, Billy, Billy. All right. Another Billy. And yes, it is Billy. All right. This musician has cited that the Spice Girls as a major influence in regard to her love and passion for music, stating that they made me what I am today. 2 of her hits are "Hello" and "Someone Like You." Yeah, and the "Hello" one kind of gives it a bit away, I think. And yes, Adele. All right. How do you play a piece of music marked allegro? Fast, fast, fast. All right. And yep, fast. What was originally used to make violin strings? Rubber, earthworms, tree roots, or animal intestines? So we got gut. I'm guessing that's animal intestines. Got some question marks. More animals. All right. And yep, it was animal intestines. What style of music used bottles and eating utensils and guitar playing? Blues, classical, rock, or polka? We got blues as a guess. Another blues. Blues. All right, and yes, it was blues. All right. What is the literal translation of ukulele, a traditional Hawaiian instrument? Doll axe, little guitar, jumping flea, or fly swatter? So we got jumping flea is one of the guesses. Another jumping flea. Flea. All right. Here I was thinking that was going to stump people. Which of these is not a percussion instrument? Flute, tom-tom, snare drum, crash cymbal. Yeah, that one's flute, flute. Flute. All right. How many strings does a violin have? 3, 12, 4, or 6? Guesses on 4. Which of the following is not a keyboard instrument? Xylophone, pipe organ, I don't know how to pronounce that one, and piano.
That one I'm sure is harpsichord.
That would have been how I pronounced it, but I didn't want to be completely wrong.
Yeah, it looks a little daunting.
Exactly. We got one guess on the harpsichord. And 2 on the xylophone, which, yes, there is a typo on that. Okay, this is xylophone, and yes, xylophone it is. All right. Who was the first American Idol winner? Carrie Underwood, Kelly Clarkson, Taylor Hicks, or David Cook? All right, we got Kelly, Carrie, Kelly. All right, and we'll give it a second more, see if anyone else. All right, and it was Kelly Clarkson. Which members of the Avengers had a brief stint as a pop star? Elizabeth Olsen, Scarlett Johansson, Brie Larson, or Zoe Saldana? Got Scarlett guess. Another Scarlett guess. All right, another Scarlett. All righty. So it was actually Brie Larson. A violinist, songwriter, and dancer. Who is it? Got Sarah, Hillary, and Sophia, and Lindsay. Got a guess for Lindsay, got a guess for Sarah, another one for Lindsay. Another for Sarah. Uh-oh, I think we're tied. All right, we're tied between Lindsay and Sarah. So gonna need one more guess if anyone can. All right, we have one person here who's saying Lindsay, so we'll go ahead and with Lindsay, and it is Lindsay. All right, so we got 22 out of 25 correct. We did pretty good.
That's really good.
Oh, thank you, Allison. Most of those I did not know until we made them, or until I made it, that some of those people even existed. So it was really fun for me too.
Yes, it was so funny. Like, I don't know. I was surprised at the ones that I did know, and then some of the ones that I didn't know. I was like, I should know that, or I don't know. You would think I would know. Like Justin Bieber's middle name, no idea.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'm going to stop sharing this. Thank you. All right. And thank you so much for everyone for coming. Do we have any other last minute questions for Morgan before we finish up here?
Yes, thanks for everyone for coming, and thanks for having me too. This has been so much fun.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for popping in and spending your afternoon with us. Really appreciate it. We're trying to do multiple author talks, so keep an eye out on our social media pages for any future ones that we have, and maybe we'll have Morgan back with her next book once it's out. So keep an eye out for that as well. For anyone who hasn't read it yet, we do have it here at the library available for checkout. So you can log online if you already have a library card, put it on hold, and we'll let you know as soon as it's ready for you. But thank you so much, everyone, and hope you have a great rest of your Saturday.
Ew, bye.